Alrighty, so this is my second part of video on adding fractions. This one is particularly about adding mixed numbers, okay? So everything that we've learned so far about adding fractions still applies, and all those skills you will need to use in these type of questions. But we sort of break the question up into a couple of pieces, okay? So I'm just going to read this text first. That will help us to describe what's going on. So there are a few ways to do these types of questions. I'm just going to show you the most common way now because I feel like it's the most simple in terms of not trying to do too many things at once. You need to just be really careful that when you're doing your working, you don't leave anything behind, okay? And that will make more sense when I do some examples with you in a moment. So first step is to add the whole numbers because mixed numbers have a whole number and a little part of a fraction together. So add the mixed numbers to the side. I won't say forget about those, but put those to the side for the moment. Move on to the fraction part. Same rules apply as everything that we've done so far with fractions. So if they're the same denominator, they're very simple. If they're different denominators, change them to be the same denominator and proceed as you would for those questions. Simplify your fraction answer, then grab your whole numbers back from over the side and your fraction answer and collect them all together. Hope that makes sense. Let's do some examples. Okay. First one I have for you, I'll leave those steps there. We have 11 and a quarter plus 1 and 2/4. Okay, so step number 1, add the whole numbers together, okay? Very simple in this case. What I'd like you to do there is to put a circle around that. That will hopefully remember us not to leave it behind later. Move on to the fractions now, okay? So right next to your, oops, don't need to write that. Right next to your working, just the fraction part of our question, so 1/4 plus 2/4. Now, again, this is a simple example because our denominators are the same. So just add across the top, that becomes 3. Denominator 4 stays the same, so 3/4. Now, I just need to put all those things together. So 12 and 3/4 is our final answer. So what I've done is to sort of break the question up into the whole numbers and the fractions and then gather them all together at the end. Now this really works very easily for adding mixed numbers. I'm going to do some examples of subtracting mixed numbers, which can be a little trickier in a different video. Okay, another example of these types of questions. Let's say I have 5 and 2/3 plus 4 and 2/3 as well. Oops. Okay, so my denominators are the same, but this has a little bit of an extra step, this question, which is why I chose it. Okay, so 5 plus 4 equals 9. Done the whole numbers first. Then I have 2/3 plus 2/3. Denominators are the same in 3, so just add across the top and I've got 4/3. Okay, so at this point, what I would do, you're recognizing that this is an improper fraction, is that I would convert it to a mixed number. So 3 goes into 4 once and 1 remainder. Okay, then I would be able to put these two parts together. You could, of course, go 9 and 4/3 and then convert your answer to a mixed number at that point. I just like to do it this way, so I've sorted everything out before I give my final answer. So now I have 9 plus 1 and a quarter. So that would equal 10 altogether and a quarter. Okay, so you just need to do everything really carefully with these sorts of questions. Alright, let's do perhaps the harder one that I'm going to show you today. So we have 3½ plus 8 and 2/3. Okay, so the same steps apply here. 3 plus 8 equals 11. Circle around that and leave it to the side. 1/2 plus 2/3. Okay, now I've run into a problem because my denominators are different, but I do know what to do. So I just need to change my denominators to be the same. Then I can add and deal with the rest of my question. Okay, so thinking about the common denominators here that I could have, 6 is what stands out. Okay, so what have I done to 2 to turn it into 6? I've times by 3. So I'm going to times the top by 3 then as well. So that becomes 3 sixths, and we can see that's equivalent to a half. What have I done to 3 to turn it into 6 here? I've times by 2. So that becomes 4 sixths. Okay, and now I have a fraction I can that are the same denominators. I can add across the top, so 7 sixths. Okay, that's a mixed number if I was to simplify it, so that would become 1 and 1/6. Now I can put everything together. So see how carefully you've got to work with questions like this, because there's lots to be doing before you get to the end. So 11 plus 1 and 1/6. Please always write down all your working steps as well. Okay, so all together we've got 12 and 1/6. Now it's really important as a last final step to just check the fraction component of your answer and see, can I simplify any further? And I can't in this case. If it was 2/6 as my answer, I would simplify that to 1/3, but I don't have to here. Okay, so that's my final answer.